An extremely significant geopolitical event, the first ever Quad leader summit, has concluded. The Quad has 4 members, the United States, Australia, Japan and India. And in the face of growing economic competition from China, US President Joe Biden's administration has been putting greater emphasis on the Indo-Pacific region. And at the Quad summit, the leaders from all 4 countries have pledged to work to ensure a free and open Indo-Pacific region. According to the joint statement released by the White House after the virtual summit, an in-person meeting has also been decided between the 4 nations, which will be held by the end of 2021. The virtual meeting has been described as historic by the leaders. Post the meet, U.S. National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan said that while China was not a primary focus of the meeting, the Quad countries' strained relations with Beijing did come up. The Quad has announced plans to expand coronavirus vaccine manufacturing capacity in India in an effort to expand production and promote access to the vaccine in the Indo-Pacific region. Now, India will manufacture at least 1 billion more COVID-19 vaccine doses by the end of next year. The manufacturing will be backed financially by Japan as well as the U.S. International Development Finance Corporation, which provides funding for projects in developing countries. Australia will contribute another $77 million to ensure vaccines are not only delivered but also administered in Southeast Asia. This will be in addition to an earlier commitment of $407 million. Japan, in turn, will provide $41 million for the distribution of these vaccines, which requires careful climate control.
The 4 leaders did discuss the challenge posed by China, and they made clear that none of them have any illusions about China. But today was not fundamentally about China. Much of the focus was on pressing global crises, including the climate crisis and COVID-19. And with respect to COVID-19, these 4 leaders made a massive joint commitment today. With Indian manufacturing, U.S. technology, Japanese and American financing, and Australian logistics capability, the Quad committed to delivering up to 1 billion doses to ASEAN, the Indo-Pacific, and beyond by the end of 2022.
Now, at the summit, India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi spoke about a free and open Indo-Pacific and India's commitment to democratic values. Listen in to him and Indian Foreign Secretary Harsh Vardhan Shringla.
We are united by our democratic values and our commitment to a free, open and inclusive Indo-Pacific. Our agenda today, covering areas like vaccines, climate change and emerging technologies, make the Quad a force for global good.
At the meeting, the leaders agreed to the creation of 3 working groups, and these are a vaccine expert working group to implement our path-breaking commitment to safe and effective vaccine distribution, a critical and emerging technology working group to facilitate cooperation on international standards and innovative technologies of the future, and a climate working group to strengthen climate actions globally on mitigation, adaptation, resilience, technology, capacity building, and climate finance.
US President Joe Biden said that vaccines will drive global growth this year. Listen in to what the US President had to say.
The OECD also predicted that the United States economic growth, fueled by the ARP and increased vaccinations, will be a key driver in global growth this year, and our trade partners benefiting around the world as a consequence. But to get this right, we all have to focus on generating domestic demand and driving sustainable global growth. And we're launching an ambitious new joint partnership that is going to boost vaccine manufacturing and for the global benefit and strengthen vaccinations to benefit the entire Indo-Pacific.
And so a free and open Indo-Pacific, vaccines and global supply chains, the Quad will be confronting China on all these 3 fronts.
With the 4 countries working together, I wish to firmly advance our cooperation to realize a free and open Indo-Pacific and to make visible and tangible contribution to the peace, stability, and prosperity of the region, including overcoming COVID-19.
As we emerge from this global pandemic and the global recession, let us together create a different future. It is the indo-pacific that will now shape the destiny of our world in the 21st century.
The timing of this Quad summit is significant. Top officials from the United States and China are meeting next week in Alaska. This is the first bilateral engagement of the Biden administration with China. The Quad has firmed up its alliance just before those discussions. And so, meeting for the first time, the leaders of the four Quad countries, India, Japan, United States and Australia, have pledged a more free and open Indo-Pacific. The summit concluded with plans to expand COVID vaccine manufacturing to 1 billion doses by 2022 for distribution in Asia. That's where China's presence casts a large shadow. Our correspondent Susan Tehrani from New York has a detailed report on the long-awaited Quad meet.
The Quad concluded its first heads of state meeting on Friday. Leaders from the United States, India, Japan and Australia agreed to launch a plan to boost COVID-19 vaccine production and distribution. This as the White House seeks to deepen coordination with its partners in the Indo-Pacific region to counterbalance China. A joint statement by Quad members said that an agreement had also been reached to set up working groups on climate change and technology, including cybersecurity. This was U.S. President Joe Biden's first multilateral leaders meeting since taking office less than 2 months ago. U.S. National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan said that it was deliberate and critical.
Each of the leaders independently in the course of the meeting referred to this event as historic, because it cemented a group of strong democracies that will work together going forward to secure a free and open Indo-Pacific.
Sullivan said the four leaders did discuss China, but that the meeting was not exclusively about China.
The four leaders did discuss the challenge posed by China, and they made clear that none of them have any illusions about China. But today was not fundamentally about China. Much of the focus was on pressing global crises, including the climate crisis and COVID-19.
The vaccine initiative aims to deliver up to 1 billion doses by the end of 2022, with Indian manufacturing, U.S. technology, Japanese and American financing, and Australian logistical support. On-technology leaders agreed to a shared commitment to the rules-based international order in maintaining a technological edge in emerging technologies, as well as in new domains of conflict and competition, like information technology and space. The Quad meeting precedes a wave of Asia-focused diplomacy for the United States in the coming weeks. Secretary of State Anthony Blinken and Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin will travel to Japan and South Korea next week. Austin will then travel to India. The leaders agreed to meet in person in the coming months. Susan Tehrani from New York for WION. World is One.
Our principal diplomatic correspondent Siddhant Sibbal joined us from India with more details on the Quad. Let's listen in to his inputs.
The first Quad leadership meeting is over and China has woken up to a new geopolitical reality. We know that the Quad member countries are now talking about the first in-person meeting that is expected to take place later this year, perhaps on the sidelines of the G7 summit in the United Kingdom or maybe in Washington, because Washington is also keen to host the first meeting of the Quad leaders. But largely, there were two major outcomes. First, in terms of practical cooperation when it comes to COVID vaccines, the Quad vaccine initiative with India as their major manufacturing center will be producing 1 billion vaccines for the Indo-Pacific region. The first consignment will go to Southeast Asian countries. And the other big talking point or the outcome was on the free and open Indo-Pacific. That clearly means that China needs to follow the international rules-based order, or else it will face a backlash. But largely, we know that China has been name-calling Quad, and that, of course, is not going to help China, because Chinese actions eventually led for the consolidation of this grouping, a grouping that was formed after the 2004 tsunami, when the grouping came together to provide humanitarian support to countries in the region. With video journalist Neeraj Patel, Siddhant Sibal for WION in New Delhi.